As long as it's fun, you should do it. Yeah.
Fun is definitely a priority for us. I think we should always kind of have this element of fun in our life, and not in a kind of forcibly fun way, but that can be just simple little moments within life. But it's very easy throughout your day to get into the kind of long list of things that you have to do and forget why you want to do those things. I think most of the time, everybody wants to do something because they feel it's going to make them happy, whatever that is.
Welcome to Priorities, the podcast about the things in life that really matter. I'm your host, journalist and coach Lily Silverton, and each week I'll be asking a new interviewee to open up about the things that are important and unimportant to them. What takes first place in their life, what they couldn't care less about, and what they'd like to work on a little bit more. Will you agree with their priorities? Will they make you reevaluate your own? Let's find out. My guests today are artistic duo and husband and wife Walter and Zoniel. Known for their multidisciplinary and socially engaging work, Walter and Zoniel use the tools of nature, surrealism, reflection, and amusement to create exceptionally unique installations and artworks. Their visually and mentally inspirational work has been shown at Tate Britain, Somerset House, Frieze London, and Miami Basel. Their works have been acquired by the National Art Collection and the National Portrait Gallery, and their thoughtful and idiosyncratic approach to art has led to collaborations with fashion giants, including Paul Smith and Matches Fashion. Welcome, Walter and Zoniel.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you two doing today? Where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10?
Zoniel, you go first.
A scale of 1 to 10. You put me in numerical order. Well, I'd like to say a solid 10, just a standard 10. I'd like to go from there.
Zoniel's a standard 17. Yeah.
Walter likes the numbers a lot better than I do, as you know, but I am partial to changing that scale. So
I am a good solid achy 8. So I went for a big run and now I'm aching. Apart from that, I'm good. Yeah.
Zoniel, you're our first number 10.
Woo! Yeah. Well, you got
that. The fireworks.
You win.
Being base does help, Lily. You know, as a basis.
It's a good basis. All right, we're going to jump straight into your first priority, which is kind of your big priority. So explain to me your priorities, your priority.
Okay, so
big surprise.
Art, yeah. Making art is definitely making art is our life. It is kind of like our child, our parent, our food, our sustenance.
Our reason to exist.
Yeah, all of those things. And so all of our priorities are kind of filtered through that, in as much as you were talking about kind of thinking about 3 specific priorities, and which is good to kind of focus our minds and think of it in that way. And I think the first one is being inspired. And that may sound like a funny thing to be a priority, but I think there's kind of a state of mind that you can put yourself in to recognize inspiration in your life. And that doesn't mean you have to always be bouncing off the walls inspired. Sometimes that inspiration is inspired to just lie in bed all day. That could be inspiration, as well as feeling inspired to go for a walk or feeling inspired to create a piece of art for us.
Yeah, for me, I think it's the ability to take inspiration and manifest it into reality. So it's a matter of, lots of people are inspired, lots of people have dreams, but there's differences between being able to capture the little slippery buggers and like whack them into a reality, you know, and actually make something in this world. That's a priority for me. I'm little slimy, wiggly ideas all the time, and I carve them into reality.
Wrestling with inspiration. Okay, so we've gone from being inspired is a priority. Wrestling our ideas is what is viewing.
Wrestling ideas, wrestling them into production.
Yeah, I kind of see that as putting your inspiration in context, so that you have the environment that is nurturing to be able to take that inspiration and create something into reality. Whether that's having the things that you need, the tools that you need around you to be able to capture that moment, capture that inspiration, or being able, recognizing it in the first state as an inspiration. And also, I mean, we're quite lucky because we live in this bubble of the two of us. And so when we have ideas, at the very first point of inspiration, it's important not to just kind of like blather them all out. And if you let ideas out too soon, then it's quite easy for other people to kind of pee all over them a little bit, or just maybe not be as inspired as you are, or maybe not understand those ideas, and certainly not necessarily have the same feelings that you have about them. And so within the two of us, we kind of create this environment of nurturing those ideas. And so we try, when one of us comes up with an idea before the other one's quite caught up, to kind of give that state of mind a space to be able to kind of hear that and take it to expanding that idea further. I think the other part of our inspiration, the other part of our priority, is definitely having fun. Walter likes to sing it. I often like to sing it also. It sounds like a bell. I would like a bell that just rang fun, actually. Thank you. That was a good idea.
If it's not fun, why the F are you doing it?
Fun is definitely a priority for us. I think everything, we should always kind of have this element of fun in our life, and not in a kind of forcibly fun way, but that can be just simple little moments within life. But it's very easy throughout your day to get into the kind of long list of things that you have to do and forget why you want to do those things. And I think most of the time everybody wants to do something because they feel that it's going to make them happy. Whatever that is, even if that's washing up, you think, oh my God, when I've done the washing up, at least the washing up will be done and I'll be happier.
Sorry, that was Blossom.
That's Blossom dumping off. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
She's gone to do the washing up. Thank you, Blossom. That wasn't a hint.
Yeah. So I think the difference is, like, I think a lot of people get caught into the very simple cycle of thinking that financial benefit or money will make their life happier or fun, and instead of just having fun with what they have, waking up.
That is true. I will agree and disagree, of course. In as much as making money could well make people happy, but I think
it makes people work to make money because they want to have fun with the money they get rather than having fun at work.
Yes. Sorry. Should we just wait till she's? Come on, Blossie. Up, come.
I think this is like the multiple times I've spoken about Dr. Seuss during this podcast, but it comes up a lot because I read it to Dolly a lot. Do you know the poem? It's fun to have fun but you have to know how.
Oh my God, I don't. 100%. I am going to get a tap of that on my chest.
I will send it to you later. It is brilliant. It's Cat in the Hat
by Lily Silverton underneath. Honoured in honour of Lily and in honour of Dolly as well. I think the element of having fun is so important. And I think a lot of people think fun is flippant.
Yeah,
it's like
throw away. It's kind of
I can't have fun now. I'm supposed to be doing things,
but serious.
But we work. It's quite often the case we work so hard for things so that we kind of put off the fun, and you can just have fun straight away
as well. Like, if I do work really hard, I'll have this holiday in 6 months' time, and that'll be really fun. It's insane.
So finding the fun in those everyday moments. I mean, there's things, we're very fortunate to live by the sea, as you know, and there's places that we go daily that I just find so uplifting, and do a little dance, have a little wave at the sea, and that fun can be in any given moment. There's nothing that should postpone your fun, even if you're in the most serious moments in life. That element of uplifting yourself, or just kind of focusing for a second within yourself and feeling some way of lightening your feelings in that moment, will connect you to yourself.
What do you say to people who don't find it so easy to access that sense of fun or lightness, especially when they're going through something difficult?
Well, obviously all of us can only access something that's kind of similar to where we're at any given moment. Like if we're in the middle of feeling super angry, for instance, then the idea of just somebody going like, have fun in your face is just going to make you want to hit them. So I think in those moments, it's like kind of trying to find the next step up from where you're at. So, and wherever you are on that scale, like if you're feeling super depressed, then feeling angry feels quite fun because you're actually and recognizing those transitions.
It's recognizing. I think that's the main problem is it's very hard if you're in a mindset not to recognize anything outside of that. And some people have been in that for weeks, for months, for years, and it's very hard. I think for these sorts of people, you have to then just introduce a very simple idea, just a one targeted simple idea, maybe,
Yeah, and I think the key to that idea is recognizing where you're at and just looking for any form of alleviation of your mood. Yeah. And that could be from the lowest chasms of our feeling kind of like you don't want to do anything, feeling really desperate, feeling really depressed. Then you can feel the next level up from that, if you recognize that and feel, and you can recognize that you have the capability to kind of allow your thoughts to go in that process, then you can feel like slightly more of a sense of control over your thought patterns. You can feel a sense of kind of alleviation. And going from, say, depression to anger actually is a very massive shift.
We're not
in
condoning anger here. Just
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's really easy to disanger. If you're going from like being super happy to being angry, then that's probably not the best direction to go in. But if you're going from feeling depressed to feeling angry, that is progression within yourself. And lots of people very easily.
Nice people around you.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. You can't live your life for everybody around you.
Mm.
It's easy to be like, oh, we don't want someone to be angry around us. But if your friends acknowledge that that's a good thing, then if I see somebody who was sad and then they got angry, it's like, great, be flipping angry. At least you've got some energy, you've got some movement. And then there's another step past that. You don't want to stay in anger.
And being honest about how you feel as well.
Yeah, I think for most people, the idea of change is not a very good one. So I think a good analogy would be like anyone who's ever done any form of exercise. There's all the times you are snuggled in bed. There is no way in hell on earth you want to get out of that warm bed. You're like, oh, and there's no way you want to do that exercise. You get out and you do it, and the exercise is amazing. I was going to say F word there, but it's amazing, and you enjoy it, and you're in the moment, and you're living it. But the depressive is the kind of person in bed, isn't it? It's just trying to access. They know that the exercise is good and it's going to be fun, but just to actually doing something when you don't actually feel like it, because we all feel better. Going for a walk, you might not feel like it, but just do it anyway. Go, try growing vegetables.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. It's kind of going to the next step. I think that's it. And if you're happy and you're going to that step, but also kind of like acknowledging your happiness and like recognizing the things that make you feel good.
Yeah, because each of us are individuals. Each of us find happiness in different things. We're not all robots. So.
We're not all robots, no.
No, we are not all robots.
I'm glad we established that one. What are some of the things that bring you guys joy? What are some of the daily routines that you have?
Running and swimming in the sea, growing vegetables,
cycling, doing things like that, physical, meditating, practice every single morning. To me, meditation is like taking a shower for your brain or brushing your teeth. It's like if you don't do it, you feel a bit icky. But if you do it, you definitely know you've done it. And you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah. Sponsored by Colgate.
Yeah. Be kind of weird. Yeah, but it is.
Like brushing your teeth for your mind.
Okay, silly boots. Not that silly. We can't have that much. Sorry, I'm just censoring the fun level here.
There's so many things. I like, one of my favourite things, obviously, before the current environment we're in, was wherever we are, whatever city we're in or visiting places. I like get up really early, like 5 in the morning, because I naturally wake up that early anyway. And putting on some music and walking around the streets, and there's no one else around apart from street cleaners. And that is possibly one of my favourite joys.
What do you listen to?
I listen to Max Richter.
Oh yeah,
pretty awesome soundtrack. It is. Yeah. If you ever want to be inspired, back on some Max Richter, walk some empty streets of the city, and you're like, yes, I am going to create.
I like looking at the sea. We go jump in the sea quite a lot. And I think looking at the sea there's a spot down here in Hastings, Mackinac, and we went there this morning, and it's just every single time I look at it, it makes my heart just really expand. And I just can't get over how exciting it is looking at the spot. And I said this morning, I was like, can I just live here? Do you think I could just live here in a tent? Walter was kind of...
I said, you'd be all right if you had 15 cats with you, and people would probably leave you alone.
Interesting. I think I could train Blossom to just meet people for me. Anyone coming down, same vibes anyway. So I think kind of nature as a whole, that's kind of a thing. And dancing. I mean, sometimes, obviously, we have had some dances together, Lily, in the past, and you are a professionally trained dancer. But even we can forget the power of dance sometimes. And this is a podcast, but I wish everybody could see Lily's, in inverted commas, uncle dance. Crazy uncle in the corner. But yeah, I think dancing it's like anything that kind of gets you moving, like Walter's saying, kind of running.
Running is, food for the soul. Yeah.
But dancing, if running's food for the soul, what's dancing then?
It's food for your groins. Yeah.
It's so weird that she's definitely going to have to edit it out. Definitely staying in.
So, Neil, you've got a really long history with meditation as well, which you've brought into your work. Yes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny because obviously when we're in the middle of living our lives, it's really odd to take a perspective of it. But meditation at this present moment is having quite a heyday, isn't it? And I mean, I was brought up going to kind of different Buddhist monasteries as well as with Roman Catholicism through my grandmother. And so I learned to meditate as a child. My mother taught me to meditate, and then I went to teaching to different Buddhist teachers. But I didn't really kind of think of it like that at the time. It was quite a different way of perceiving it. And then when I was a teenager, I went straight from a rave to a monastery and became a nun, Buddhist nun for a while. And effectively, I feel like that was almost like my equivalent of going to university at that point in time, because all the things that was a very immersive way of taking meditation, I guess, to a different sort of stage. And I spent just over 3 years being in monastery studying different kind of Buddhist arts. It was a Buddhist monastery, by the way. And and then it's just part of my everyday life. It is something that I just feel, like I said, it's like brushing your teeth or having a shower. It is something that is so precious in that context. And I was really kind of fascinated with when I first went to Thailand, actually, which is a different type of Buddhism there. But it was quite standard to be able to take robes for a year there. And when I took robes, it was here in the UK in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in the UK. And it was the first time you were able to take robes for a year. And that made it kind of incredibly accessible in a way. And that's sort of like opened it up to the Western world in lots of ways, because I don't think there's many people that would be prepared to just sort of relinquish everything and think, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life. But it's quite a standard thing in Thailand to take robes for a year. And it's quite often, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that the kind of firstborn of lots of families will go and do that. And that's almost like kind of part and parcel of coming of age. And when I studied as a nun, then I really thought this was like the most precious teaching that I was given in all of my education. And I always thought kind of that would be something that would be super valuable, that if there's one thing that could be taught in schools, it would be that, because that really felt to me like a tool for dealing with your emotions more than anything. And like, what do you deal with every single day of your life if not your emotions?
It's something that's sadly lacking in kind of Western education, I think, is like we get taught many, many things in school, but we don't get taught how to deal with emotions, kind of with the inner self, which I think everyone could do with, time of meditation and alternate,
I think a lot of more into it's more into public domain, and people are kind of having much more of a relationship with meditation. I nearly said medication then.
And medication.
Meditation is what you need.
Yes.
If you want to be the best.
To be the best.
Meditation.
Chilling out. Okay.
I think more and more schools do teach it. I definitely see that around.
Yeah.
Which is a huge difference. And are starting to realise the huge importance of teaching people to understand their emotions and accept their emotions.
Yeah, a good friend of ours set up a thing about mindfulness where she teaches just kids, and they'll go and teach, I think they teach massage, like group massage. So they'll go in a kind of circle or something and like gently massage each other's shoulders, and then they do kind of like a group meditation for little children. She was a primary school teacher. And I thought, well, that's kind of quite an eye-opener to see that that's something that's making its way into primary schools.
That's so lovely. We'll link to that in the show notes. You give me the name and I can link her in.
Yeah. And we did a series of them at the portrait gallery last year, which was quite interesting to take people out of their moment and wrapping them up and blindfolding them, and as a kind of art performance, straight meditation. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, so
I did it. It was a wonderful experience.
A heavily pregnant Lily at the time. I think you wrapped her to a chair, much to my dismay. But yeah, so we developed this practice, this art meditation practice, which was about, because we're really firm believers in art being for everybody, being accessible. So our first kind of step into that was making public artworks. So they were in the domain where everybody could access them. And then we were looking at a different way of making art accessible. Yeah. And that's when we decided to use meditation in this format, because I think one of the blocks to art that people have is thinking that it's not for them because it comes from the only access points are academic. And even as simple as having like the little sign next to an artwork that tells you what it's about. In some ways that's great, but in other ways it's like, you can just make your own connection with this piece of art. You don't have to be validated by anything else. And so we created these art meditations, which you experienced in the National Portrait Gallery, where we do things like we have people lying on the floor in the gallery and then swaddling them in blankets and covering their eyes and things that kind of just would take you out of what you'd normally do in that space.
Yeah, and then mentally. Yeah.
And then mentally guiding them through. We've got kind of 4 different types of meditations that we've now developed doing that. And that has been a real eye-opener for other people and for us as well. Like we did one session with actually people who worked at the gallery. So
that was really interesting, all the curators, and they're having this experience they've never had before with artworks that they've been with for years, 20 years.
Because I just assumed everybody, if you work somewhere, you definitely just lie on the floor for a minute because you got that access. But
that's just the way our brains work.
So they said that was really nice to kind of do this, just even that act of like lying down.
Yeah, I think it was good. The idea is good for the public as well, because a lot of big institutions, the Portrait Gallery at Tate, they have these, now I can't remember how many seconds it is, but there's a known figure within the arts world of how long the average person looks at a little piece of card, reads the information, stands and looks between, I think, don't quote me on this, but it's like 15 seconds or 30 seconds. You look at the painting, then you move on, you read the next card, you look at the painting for the next 30 seconds, then you move on. And it's not really giving justice to yourself or to the piece of work. So I think we're trying to think of ways in which to, change that relationship.
To change that relationship and to kind of like create your own connection. I mean, I think art is something that you decide what your connection is to something. I mean, all of our artwork is about making a connection through joy. And so we try and present circumstances or outcomes that are joyous in some way, because I think that joy has this tremendous power to connect. And if you can kind of embody a sense of joy in yourself when you're being part of something, or if you're looking at something, then that becomes yours. That sentiment, that feeling, that sense of joyousness. It's like whatever you're looking at, that's become your experience, and nobody can take away from that. Nobody can like reframe that. Only you can say what your relationship to that piece of art is. And that's important for people to know, and for more people to be able to make that relationship with art. Because it's up to you how you relate to a piece of art. You don't have to be able to write an academic paper on it. I mean, if you can, then that's lovely. You can do that. But if you can't, or if you don't want to, if you're not interested in that, you can just enjoy the colour of it. You can enjoy how it makes you feel. But
4 years ago, we used to go to the Rothko room in the Tate, do you remember?
Yes.
And there was a little small room and it had Rothkos on every wall. So it was like a rectangle. So it's 4 of them. It was very powerful. So we used to just, the years and years ago, like just after being students, stand in there and spin in circles. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like a kaleidoscope of Rothko.
I stand in a gallery and spin in a circle or lie on the floor. No one's going to stop you. And if they do, then you'd be like, I'm just a piece of art, mate.
Yeah.
That Rothko room's one of my favourite rooms of any gallery in the world.
Oh, it's lovely. It's really lovely. I think that's it. I mean, it's wonderful.
Next time you go, spin in a circle.
Have you spun round in it,
I
Lily?
have never spun round in it. I will definitely spin round in it next time.
Many years now.
That is our challenge to you.
I think what you said about spending a very brief amount of time, whatever it is, in front of each piece and then moving on is quite big. And one of the things is that there's so much art out there now, and some of the galleries, to get around them properly, would take days if you really spent time. How do you guys feel? Do you get art fatigue in the work that you do?
Not me.
No. No, because we're focused on having fun. I think that's it. It depends. You don't have to see every single piece of art. I mean, I guess what you could do is just stand in the center of a room and just gently glance around and see what calls you, which thing in that room makes you want to actually go up to it, and go up to it and stand there in front of it for longer than it feels comfortable for everybody around you. So the people are kind of nuzzling up next to you and going that's your position now. Just wait till they pass by. And once that's, I know you'd be good at this, Lily. And once that's happened, you'll start to relax in a different way. It's like when you go to a cafe and you stay there for longer than you've had 6 drinks. And you're like, I always like to do this in pretty much any context, actually.
I'm pretty good at that. I'm not socially aware. I'll just stand there and I'm oblivious to people trying to move me out of the way.
Yeah, so it doesn't work the same for you. But other people are kind of conscious of other people. And there's kind of social, there's social governance of that situation, isn't there? So if you stay there for a bit longer and just own that space for a minute, then I think, you don't have to take in everything and you don't have to know everything about everything. You can just go. Sometimes
the less you know, the better. Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. True. Well, yeah.
If it inspires you, then find out more about it. But I firmly believe you should just feel a connection to a piece of work and look at it, whatever it is you get out of it, whatever story you tell yourself, and then walk away. You might not even need to know who the artist is.
Yeah.
If you want to, fair enough.
See where your inspiration takes you.
Yeah, we certainly don't make art for people to then know everything about our lives and why we did it and everything else. I certainly don't. And I assume most artists that ever made a painting or a sculpture just made it to make an impression on someone. That's all there is to do.
I literally cannot speak for every artist and why they create. I love that you can.
I can, totally.
Of course you can. Of course you can, because you are Walter. And that is what you do.
I can't imagine, as Pierre says, just having a painting. He's like, yeah, you know what? Years from now, people are going to just look at this painting and they'll want to know my life history and where I went to school. And, oh, yeah, wait, that makes me think where I went to school. I had a bit.
Well, they won't be creating it like that.
Of course not. They're creating for an impression. Give someone a sense of,
maybe, but even between the two of us, we create for different reasons. I mean, Walter's like a man of legacy. This will last past me. And I'm just like, let's have some fun now. I'm also addicted to the reaction of people. I think when you make a public performance, a big public installation, and you can watch people and they don't know that you're the artist. That's the real addiction, is to see people's this momentary expression that can't be faked. This kind of wonder that goes on people's faces. Children are better than adults, but if you get an adult's face to just drop into wonder, it's like crack cocaine. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Yeah.
I love sleep. Seriously, it's one of my biggest priorities, and I'm a different and much improved person when I get my full 8 hours. So I'm incredibly excited that this season of Priorities is sponsored by Sleep Siren, an independent lifestyle brand fueled by a passion for health, wellness, and great sleep. Sleep Siren brings together science, education, and luxurious products to offer meaningful support to busy people who could sleep a little or a lot better. As the mother of a toddler and having suffered from insomnia on and off my entire life, I know firsthand how helpful Sleep Siren can be at identifying and covering your sleep needs. Whether you're looking to read an expert article on the latest sleep science, treat yourself to some insanely soft silk pajamas, or simply find a luxurious eye mask, Sleep Siren have everything you need to sleep well tonight. If you would like to improve your sleep, I'd love for you to have the same experience as me with Sleep Siren. So they're offering 20% off with the code PRIORITY20. Check them out on www.sleepsiren.com. Thank you to Sleep Siren. Nutrition is a priority for me, and I know that the more plants I eat, the better I feel. However, with a busy life, I, like you I'm sure, don't always manage to get my daily quota of greens. So I'm very happy that this season of Priorities is sponsored by Foga, a new brand that makes plant shakes, pre-portioned blends of freeze-dried fruit and veg that you simply shake up with water or milk to create a restaurant-standard smoothie at home. I'm not really into protein shakes or powders, however these are genuinely amazing. They're so easy and delicious. Right now, I'm digging the ginger and greens combination, and my daughter is a big fan of berries and cinnamon. They contain 0 extra sugars or chemicals. Through freeze drying, have all the nutrients locked in, and they're whole plant, meaning they have all the fiber of fresh fruit and veg. It's really the lazy person's dream. If you're looking to easily and affordably prioritize your nourishment, then I'd love to find out if you enjoy Foga as much as I do. They're offering £5 off your first box with the code PRIORITIES. Check them out on www.foga.co. That's FOGA. Thank you to Foga. Tell us about the piece you did. You've got the jellyfish behind you. Tell us about the jellyfish piece and the first time you did it in Liverpool.
So that was our first piece of public art, effectively. And that was funded by gallery, not funded by kind of a public art body, because we really, really wanted to make our art accessible. So we wanted to make something that was wondrous, that was in an environment that anyone could come across. And we made this work in Liverpool, in Topsted, which at the time was classified as the poorest borough in possibly the whole of the EU, but definitely the UK. And you know, I'm not a fan of statistics, to be honest, but that really was interpreted quite easily. If you went around Topsted, there's only 1 in every 10 houses is occupied. So it had a very bad reputation since 35 years ago.
Geographically speaking, for those who haven't been to Liverpool, within 10 minutes walk, you can be in the city centre and literally go across a little, two-lane junction.
Yeah.
Dual carriageway. You can't cross the dual carriageway, you're into what's that lovely, the Georgian Quarter?
Yes.
Literally.
Sorry, mate. You just go across the road.
So
and
it's not far. It's not like you're talking miles away.
So this is kind of like something that's become a theme in our work going forward, of working in these spaces that are so close to city centres.
And also it's very close to big art fairs. So this Liverpool Biennial happens every 2 years. It's a massive art fair, and people from all over Europe and curators, critics come and descend upon the city to see these installations. So the crux of the project was to create something in this poorest neighbourhood over here that doesn't get any funding, doesn't get any art, any real love put into it, and we give it to the people. So a couple of weeks before the art fair's even existing, we secretly installed this huge giant tank of jellyfish behind a roller shutter in an old abandoned warehouse. And so as the sun sets, the shutter goes up by itself, and then there's just live jellyfish here in this middle of this desolate road. So the first night, 3 people discover it and they're like, what WTF? They basically take a picture, take a selfie, and they're like, call someone up and go, there's a giant jank of jellyfish down, I can't remember the name of the road, but down this road. And so obviously by the third night, there was like 20, 30 people. By the end of the week, there was 150 people. Actually, it was raining. It was really lovely. Just to stand at the other side of the street and see all these people with umbrellas in the rain, waiting for the shutter to open up to see the jellyfish. They didn't know it was a piece of art. They didn't know anything about it. And then the art fair happened. We advertised it as a piece of art, and all the curators and critics had to then come to this poor neighbourhood and mingle with all of the local inhabitants who then owned it and loved it. And
So that was like, there were three sort of stages that we were aiming to happen. It was kind of almost part social experiment, I guess, in that respect. Whereas the first stage being that you could just discover it for yourself. You don't know what it is. It could be a piece of artwork. You could be like, is an aquarium opening here? I don't know. And the second stage would be that somebody would tell you about that. So you're going there because someone's told you there's something sort of fantastical there. And then the third stage would be that you're coming there to visit it as a piece of art because you know it's a piece of art and you know something about it. And all three of those stages could and did happen at the same time, where you'd have people, discovering it, and then there's an art critic there and someone around the corner is telling them what the work's about.
There was a lovely, I can't remember where she was from.
Making up
she was
stories.
From Sweden or somewhere, this art critic. And right next to her, I can't do a Liverpudlian accent, was a guy with his arm around her, telling her all about it. It was like literally.
And what was even better was that he's just making up a story about it.
Which was amazing. And as an artist, that is the highest accolade you can have. So just stand there and watch people's sense of joy, fun, wonderment just happening. And that is a gift that you have given in the world. That's it.
So
addiction.
That was utterly addictive. So we also filmed through from inside the tanks, and then we live streamed that whilst the biennial was on in London into like the massive sort of front of a gallery. And it was quite fascinating to see, what can be fantastical in one space versus being fantastical in London, in Mayfair, which, there are whole window displays that have obviously cost £1 million to make. So from that side, you could see the street scene looking through the jellyfish. So you could see people coming up, and it would be like giant faces coming up to it. So that was our very first kind of step into making public artwork and making something which we wanted people to be able to connect in this kind of wondrous way, this kind of sense of surrealism and joy. And it was addictive, as Will said. Very slow.
We repeated it in Miami. It was that addictive.
Lily saw it in
Miami Basel. Lily was there.
Yeah.
And then we've gone on to do things like where we covered entire galleries. We've built giant catapults to fire paint outside of galleries, painted beaches, multicoloured, all sorts of things. The idea is just to capture people's attention that aren't necessarily art lovers or informed about art, but just to give them this kind of gift, this sense of wonderment, and inspire them, hopefully. That's the key.
Yeah, I think that kind of, inspiration, just creating a moment or a circumstance that you could make kind of a level access point, like Walter was saying with the paint. So we asked people 3 questions, and we posed them as yes or no questions, which none of them have yes or no answers. For instance, they were like, do you have to be an artist to make art? But because we put them in that situation where they say yes or no, and dependent on their answer, we give them a balloon filled with coloured paint, and that coloured paint would represent their answer. And they didn't know that until they threw it at the building. And then that was thrown at a building explosion. Like the whole thing was just magnificently colourful. And then that turns into this sort of debate, this abstract representation of a debate. People start debating in the queue while they're waiting to have a go. They'll be like, and then people's kids are even better, because people are like, do you have to be an artist to make art? No. Everybody wanted to say no for a little while. And then a kid would be like, yes. Yes, you have to be an artist to make art. And and their parents would go, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, do you have your answer? And they're kind of second guessing. It's like there is no right or wrong answer. And then they'd give a reason for their answer, because obviously that was meant as a doorway to debate. Anyway, we can waffle on about this. So guide us, Lily.
I love hearing about the pieces that you've created. Tell us about the one you did in Scotland. Go on.
Oh, the darkest woods in the world. The darkest woods in the world.
Oh, yes.
That very bad Scottish accent. Yeah.
That is a good Scottish accent.
The Scottish accent.
I think Walter's not allowed to do accents on the podcast.
Okay.
The worst thing is I only have to hang out with someone with an accent for about 5 minutes, and my brain just tries to do it. And it's so embarrassing because I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. It's like a weird sketch show, a really bad one.
Everybody knows somebody like you, Walter.
Yeah. Aware of it, that's the problem.
They are, though.
Yeah.
It's great.
We were in Scotland for a year making a piece of art. Mm-hmm. We had a house in this wonderful place in the middle of the woods, middle of nowhere, and someone informed us that the really dark spot in the world was there one of the darkest woods in the world, So we went to discover it for ourselves, and it was truly dark. No surprises. You couldn't see a hand in front of your face. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating photographically, because obviously you could try and take an image, and obviously some people take night photography.
Yeah.
And
you open up the shutter, and after an hour or two, you get an exposure.
There is light. Yeah, so sometimes when we think it's dark, if you do have this extended exposure, then you'll see something in the light, because there's light present that our eyes can't see. But in this context, there was none of that.
There was no moonlight or starlight, because the tree coverage.
You could literally just take a photo for an hour and nothing would come out. So it's like being inside a cave, effectively. Anyway, so we had been living in London, and in London there are lots of things that people put on the street, as you know, that normally last for like 5 minutes, and it's a wonderful sense of natural recycling in that way. And we kept finding chairs, and we had found all of these wooden chairs, which all looked beautiful, but as soon as you tried to sit on them, you found out why they were on the street, because they were all broken in the way. And so when we found out this was the darkest place in the world, this kind of idea came together. And so we went and got the chairs. And we hiked into the middle of the woods.
Through the snow.
My sound guy. Okay. We went into the woods in the daylight, and then we kind of placed the chairs where we wanted to, and then we leave ourselves a trail coming back out.
Into little arrows, and then make little arrows in the snow with our feet.
Yeah, Walter thought he was in like Red Riding Hood or something.
Bloody well, because at night you came back, you couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's very, very easy.
As soon as you moved the torch, it was like the darkness came to you. It wasn't like you moved a torch over there. It felt like the darkness came and touched your shoulder.
It was very enveloping. I thought it was quite funny because Walter was like, this is where like serial killers hang out. And I was like, we're definitely the people who look crazy in this situation.
Both in overalls.
If anyone sees us in the woods, they're going to be running, not us.
Setting fire to chairs.
Oh yeah, so that's what we did. So we placed the chairs, and then we set fire to them. We hiked back in the dark of the moon, in the dark of the woods, and there was no light. We set fire to the chairs, and so the only light that made the image that we created photographically was the light of the chair letting go, releasing its own energy and becoming something else. And then we put them out.
With snow, put them on.
And you're not going to do sound effect for that one.
Yeah. And then we got the pieces of wood and chopped up, chainsaw, and then we got a giant wood chipper.
Yeah,
and then put it in that, and it goes.
It's like you're there, isn't it?
So we had the wood chipper, and that made a kind of pulpy, mushy sawdust.
And we pulped.
Yeah, and then we put them in a big giant blender, and then boiled it slowly on and off for months, basically.
And we made paper out of the chair, what was left of the chair, and then we printed the image of itself onto itself.
So therefore, the chair became the image, and it was
so
amazing.
What you're looking at is literally the physical contents of the photographic image that's printed on top of it. And unfortunately, you can't see this.
So have a look online.
You have to visualize it. Yeah, that's a fun story. So a lot of our work has these stories to them, and it's kind of funny after we just got, extolled the virtues of just looking at an artwork and not reading that story. I think your work should speak for itself, and your connection should be your own personal connection. But we do, obviously, because of the way that we make our work, we do get asked to tell these stories a lot.
I think it's my sound effect.
I think it's definitely sound effects. Nothing to do with
100% your sound effects. Concepts are really quite disappointing. It's the sound effects that make it. People are going to ask you. I mean, I know these stories, and I love hearing them over and over again, because you have this incredible way of working where you bring everything around in a circle every time. So often, even when you'll be talking about a work, I'll be like, where are they going? What's going on? Why are we at this place? And then suddenly at the end, you're like, and then we link back to this. And there's this full circle of using the most incredible materials to bring something back round.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think everything essentially...
Were you there when you made sweat portraits from your face?
Yeah, you made one of my face.
Yeah, when we made... portraits of people using their own sweat.
There is a disclaimer here. Lily doesn't sweat. Just so I don't want to make people think that Lily is not a goddess. She doesn't sweat, but somehow we managed to extract some salt from her face. That was it.
Especially for the Tate Gallery.
Especially. No, well, that's it. I think all of our I mean, we kind of bounce ideas around between the two of us, and we'll have an idea and we'll get hooked into that route of inspiration. But it's like a mathematical equation in our minds, really. And different elements get added and subtracted until it reaches that balance, which is like the circle that you're talking about. And everything has to have a conceptual reason for being there. All the processes that we use have to have a conceptual reason for us to want to make it, really. And so consequently, it does go around in that sort of cyclic nature that you're talking about.
What are you working on right now?
Well, for the last 7 months, we've been working on A Simple Act of Wonder, which is which it's an installation. It's a public installation. It's an exhibition. It's like a massive project that we kind of hit the ground running with it. It was a commission that was awarded to us in January. And it was like,
be ready for me.
Really short turnaround, start immediately. And we were in a really good point where we had these 2 months where we were just about to start doing another installation for the National Trust. And so we're like, yeah, awesome, we've got this time, we can start straight away. We started with that energy. And 7 months later, that pace has not slowed. It's been like locked down. And it's like, yeah, still going at the same pace. Still going. And so that has been.
It got a bit bigger.
It got a bit bigger and then a bit more bigger and then a bit more bigger. Like everybody has found, I guess, in this context. It's about the work itself.
Sorry,
that's Blossom having a shake. So the work itself, it centers around connection, the concepts of connection, human connection, community, how communities work together, and the act of storytelling. And how the way that we sort of interpreted that as storytelling, how that works on a daily basis in our lives, and how the way that we frame our stories can, kind of really impact the way that we relate to the world, or the way that the world relates to certain areas. And that's where the project itself is in Brighton, and it's about connecting these two spaces, suburb, which had certain elements of its
stigma. It's a place the more Muslim have ever been, and it was built just after the war, wasn't it? Or
First World War.
Second War.
Just after the First World War.
After the First World War. Yeah.
Before the Second World War.
But it's
one of those wars.
Geographically, it's like a little housing space, so there's a lot of uniformity to it. And it's never had any arts funding. And in fact, we went to interview people for months beforehand.
Very lucky
which
time.
is we've never done before, which is interesting. And a lot of people were complaining how there were lots of other art things that go on in Brighton, and they've never had any of these things happen to them. So instantly we were like, yeah, we're going to come and paint your houses then, basically. And we just had this vision of taking, because you never see these kind of, 30s, 40s kind of council houses. We all know them all across the country. We're sure how fun it would be just to kind of inject some colour and humour and fun and joy into this.
Yeah, I mean, colour, humour, joy, fun, those are all things that we would like to connect with every day anyway, and kind of put in our work. But I think maybe to describe it a little bit more, being as this is not a visual medium.
Check it out on the website.
But just to kind of describe, I mean, it's the sort of anybody who's been to any sort of British housing estate from like the 1930s to 1950s, it's a very typical type of form of housing. It's like red brick and render. And it's a sort of space that it has, like the whole area has a certain look to it. But it's on the outskirts of Brighton. And that was about connecting to the centre of Brighton. And Brighton is kind of synonymous with colourfulness and being a seaside city, and the fact that there's so much colour in all the Georgian houses. It's in the centre of the city. It's synonymous with creativity and with acceptability. And it's something that kind of jarred with this relationship with the suburb. We're working in Waltham Aberdeen. And so for the first time ever, we kind of turned our process the other way around, and we started with this research process that involved the community rather than us making a piece of work, putting it in a community and then having this interaction. So we went and interviewed like hundreds of people, and that was absolutely fascinating because we love tea and Walter loves biscuits.
I love tea and biscuits.
And
being an artist is literally like
so much
people
fun.
let you into their house, tell you their entire life story, and they feed you. It is amazing.
Well, we actually
I want a badge, mate. Isn't there like an FBI badge? Hi, I'm an artist. Yes, that's.
You don't need that badge. You've got me. I'll get you it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that? Hi. It's amazing. It's a wonderful, because everybody has wonderful stories. Every single person. They might not think their stories are wonderful, but it's an honour to be able to take these stories and put them up on a pedestal for the world to see. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So this whole project, the first element was kind of collating these elements of stories and using them as a point of inspiration to be able to, because it's a really big project that encompasses, public artwork, things that were going to be interactive. The aim was to connect these two parts of the city.
There's a series of portraits, the buildings are painted, and then there's a huge grass space. Let's say it's like a green, which is the houses are built around as you come into the estate, called the Avenue. And this green is 750 meters, maybe nearly a kilometer long. And so then we ended up,
big.
Yeah, it's very big. And so we ended up painting geometric lines on the grass on that, which was absolutely huge in scale.
So that's what we've done. Like, practically, we've installed an artwork on the grass. We've painted on different people's houses, used those as canvases. And we've installed an installation, an exhibition in Fabrica. I mean, the public artwork is accessible for everybody. There's also plaques that are on the wall, so you can go around and a series of pink plaques that all have a line of prose in them, but when you put it together, it forms a poem. So that's kind of about that sort of element of collecting and how we could form like a whole story from different elements, or you could just read them on their own and read them in relation to that space.
We also go to online to see the Fabrica.
Yeah.
So the Fabrica installation is all in 360 films now, and you can experience it all online.
Yeah, so that was an exhibition that's inside Fabrica, which is this wonderful kind of art institution in the centre of the city. That's an old church, and we really wanted to kind of play with these aspects of colour and storytelling and have this relationship to what we've done in Walsall and Bevendine. So the idea is that they would feed into one another and that people would have this greater connection between the two spaces. And so, right in the middle of creating this work, well, theoretically, what would have been like the final third of creating this work, then lockdown happened. And so these two really major things happened. One thing was that the subjects became magnified, so magnified, the subjects of community, the subjects of human connection, joy, and storytelling. Like, we're in the middle of this story that's like definitely the story of the year, the story decade of our time. It's like something that exploded around. So like, I always thought, you ever watch a documentary and someone's making a documentary and then something happens in the middle of it and you're like, did they know that was going to happen? It's just so bizarre. You kind of think you can't quite believe it in that way. And so we felt so strongly about, this was co-commissioned with Brighton Festival, which was then cancelled because that's such an outdoor and community event. And this was like one of the few things that went ahead because everybody involved felt so strongly. It would be about celebrating the sense of community and this community that had not had an art commission like this before.
Yeah, and it was wonderful. We just as lockdown was becoming
being put in place.
Well, being put in place, but we could go back again.
As it was easing towards the end. Yeah.
We were allowed to go out with social distancing because we lived together. We were actually cut the scaffolding and stop painting buildings. We would be out taking their 1 hour break, walk, and they'd see us painting, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, what's this?" And it'd be like, "Oh, something colourful and joyful in this darkest of dark hours." They're like, "Oh, it's so nice to see colour and people getting on."
Yeah, even that simple act of kind of injecting colour into a space, and certainly the act
so many people
of somebody doing something that was not kind of everything in our lives.
This wormhole of has
been locked down. But there was also this element of every single exhibition that we've had and every single installation that we've made, there's always like a sentence that bubbles to the surface. Lots of different things people will say, but it tends to be just like one thing that you hear repetitively. And that one, when we were installing, was "we need cheering up." Yeah. And so many people said it, we need cheering up. And
more than ever.
Which says a lot when you just think about that sentence, because the saying "we need cheering up" acknowledges themselves as a group. That doesn't have to be a group of people saying it, but acknowledges that you're part of a greater whole. And so that, to me, was like a really powerful thing, that idea of like, and the desire to kind of go with that sentiment of joy and to be taken, to be uplifted. And so, that was really, it meant so much to us to be able to continue this during lockdown. And we were lucky for the series of portraits that we created for it. It's just too much to explain. I feel like we're just like, blah, blah, blah.
Also, I think you're doing well when white van drivers go beep beep and give you a thumbs up. That's pretty much it. You're doing well. There are certain things in life where you're like, great, this guy's never been to an art gallery in his life. Probably, it's just like, way, amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
It was funny because when we were painting the houses, then people would say, if they could see what we were doing, they could understand visually what was happening. When we were painting the grass, every 5 minutes someone would stop and go, excuse me, what are you doing? What are you doing? And even that turned into sort of part of the installation in a weird way of explaining and kind of telling. And one of the grasses that we painted we painted like a runway because this amazing emergency landing had taken place there that had been flagged down by some locals who saved the pilots. And one of them, we changed the original design to paint it like it's like almost like a graph going up and down. But it's a series of walkways that's in as a rainbow because just this like simple.
They were all 2 meters apart.
Yeah, I mean that was just kind of conceptually embodying how we felt about this current moment. This kind of 2 meter distance and the rainbow, and how a symbol that's so sort of heavily lodged in our minds could change over a matter of weeks and months. And then the final one is a series of circles. It's like osmosis, and so that was about how the reflection of how we can look and how we can see other people, how we perceive other people in different contexts. And so certain colours of circles were next to other colours, and they look different in those different contexts. But they just look pretty too.
Yeah, and also I think very, very was that what was very, very nice was the people who partook and gave us their houses or buildings to paint on all had the option just to have them kind of painted back a different colour. But 90%, all of them apart one house is keeping the paint. So they're all going to be there. They'll be next year and the following year. So actually, we decided if we're going to get funding, we're going to go back every year and paint a few more houses until this entire neighbourhood is just multicoloured. And it'll go from
incredible.
Such a simple thing to do. I think
we love it there. Yeah. We do literally. We feel very strongly.
You can have changed the entire neighbourhood's entire existence. It won't be seen as that area. People will go to Brighton to visit that area. How wonderful a gift would that be?
It'll be fun. Anyone
love this?
Volunteers needed for next summer.
That brings me on quite well to the area that you would like to improve on.
Yes.
So chat to me a little bit about something you want to prioritise more, or something you are making a huge priority.
I like a priority. Everyone likes
priority.
I feel like there's a good an eye in anything, like the eye in your face, not the eye as in me. So I think something that we would like to improve on certainly is something that we do already, but we kind of get to a bit of a logjam with it, and that is, like we're saying now, a lot of our work has these stories behind them, and a lot of our installations has this kind of like active physical element to them. And during that time, we talk to so many people, and it's wonderful for us, and it always is this kind of wonderful connection, and people always want us to tell them the stories. Sometimes I feel like I'm just telling people bedtime stories. Actually, I did stay up in that Miami Basel once until like 4 a.m. telling people stories. You'd hear someone who'd just be overhearing it, and they'd be like, "Can you tell me now? Once those people have moved out the way?" They were like, "Okay, are you sitting comfortably?"
Let's start from the beginning.
So that is something that we would like to prioritise and focus on improving, is being able to reach more people with that same degree of energy in that way, and making that sense of connection. And so for us, that's definitely something that we're looking to prioritise, I think, now, and to focus on sort of expanding that. I mean, connectivity is like the essence of our artwork, that sense of connectedness between us and others, and really between others and art. And that's kind of like, I think it's like a sort of relay, like we feel connected through inspiration. We create art that we're connected to, and then that connects other people to their inspiration. And that's kind of like that passing it on. And so part of that tends to be us telling these stories. And I think, so that's our next thing to prioritise, I think.
Yeah, improve on, I think, I think make it more accessible to, little video clips and things like that. More,
just ways that we can make that more accessible.
And connecting with people. And nowadays, I think this time has taught us is that we have to connect other people through other mediums now, through technology such as this. Technology, yeah. Through technology. Through computing. Through the power of computing.
I have a question. Through this connection, are we going to get little videos of Zoniel's bedtime stories?
Yeah, basically.
Oh my goodness. You heard it first here.
Once upon a time,